Hey guys, it's Lila, and I'm back with Chapter 7 of Francine Poulette Meets the Ghost Raccoon. So, in Chapter 6, we learn that Francine is working as a cashier at Clyde's Bait, Feed, Tackle, and Animal Necessities. And there she meets two very interesting young kids, Frank and his sister Stella. And Frank ends the chapter with a very interesting statement. "So, I know where your screaming raccoon is," said Frank. Let's begin Chapter 7. "He's not my raccoon," said Francine. "He is on the roof of the Lincoln sisters' house. I have heard him and I have seen him. I have watched him through my binoculars. I own a very good pair of binoculars." "Good for you, kid," said Francine Poulette. "I keep an eye and an ear on things on Decawoo Drive," said Frank. "He worries," said Stella. "Decawoo Drive?" said Francine. "I once caught a pig on Decawoo Drive." "That's Mercy Watson," said Stella. "She likes to eat toast with a great deal of butter on it." "Raccoons carry rabies," said Frank. "Raccoons bite. Raccoons steal things. I read an article about a raccoon who stole a baby right out of its cradle." "What?" said Stella. "It's true," said Frank. "What was the baby's name?" said Stella. "That is an unimportant detail," said Frank. "The important thing is that it happened. Raccoons are dangerous." Francine felt her toes curling up. Her arms ached. Her leg ached. Fly 239 flew by. Francine looked at her hands. They were shaking. "You're afraid," said Frank. "I am not afraid," said Francine. "Yes, you are," said Frank. "Your hands are shaking. That is a sign of fear." "I am not well," said Francine. "I don't feel good." "You're never going to feel good until you face that raccoon," said Frank. "Get out of here, kid," said Francine. She swung her fly swatter in the direction of the door. "What would your father say?" said Frank. "What?" said Francine. She felt her heart skitter and stutter inside of her. "Your father, Animal Control Officer Clement Poulette." "You didn't know my father," said Francine. "No," said Frank. "I did not, but I read about him. He was a very brave man, and in the article in the paper, it said that he was proud of you." Francine stared at Frank. Frank stared at Francine. Stella sighed a deep sigh. "You know what I wish? I wish we could go somewhere where they sell sweets. I wish we could go to a place where they sell jelly beans or chocolate-covered peanuts or gumdrops. I love gumdrops." "You were an outstanding animal control officer once," said Frank. "I was," said Francine. "I was one of the greats. And then I panicked. Poulettes do not panic." She stared down at the fly swatter in her trembling hands. "Maybe you are still a great animal control officer," said Frank. "Why don't you find out? Come to Decawoo Drive and help us capture the raccoon." Frank took hold of Stella's hand. "Come on, Stella," he said. "We'll go and get you some sweets." Frank and Stella left Clyde's Bait, Feed, Tackle, and Animal Necessities. Francine sat on her stool. Fly 239 buzzed around her head. A great shaft of sunlight came in through the plate glass windows of Clyde's and made the bags of dog chow look like misshapen ghosts. Frank's words echoed in Francine's head. "Maybe you are still a great animal control officer. Maybe." Could it be true? The door to Clyde's opened, and Stella walked in. "Close your eyes and hold out your hand," said Stella. Francine Poulette closed her eyes and held out her hand. She felt a small tickle in the center of her palm. "Okay," said Stella. "You can look now." Francine looked down. In her hand was a gumdrop, a green one. "You should come and get the raccoon," said Stella. "It would make Frank happy. He worries." After Stella left Clyde's Bait, Feed, Tackle, and Animal Necessities, Francine put the gumdrop in her mouth. It tasted sweet. Francine rocked her stool back and forth. She felt one leg of it lift the tiniest bit off the floor. And Francine Poulette made a small noise that almost sounded like a hum.